Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
All right, looks like we are recording. Welcome back to Off the Track, episode number 37. Happy Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you are listening to the podcast, guys. I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and also joining me today, my best buddy and co-host, Bennett Gooch. Bennett, how's life been?
Pretty good. We wrapped up the indoor season, I think, on, a good note, not necessarily what you'd want, because you want to win the race, but still you didn't end up on your lid like last year, so not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, we have a great podcast coming to you guys today. We are at a point in the season where we're truly transitioning now from outlaw kart racing to sprint car and just all forms of outdoor shows. So we're going to be talking about that in today's podcast. But as Bennett said, just finished up the Red Bluff Outlaw indoor season and did that at the West Coast Nationals, which, as we said in the last podcast, is truly the biggest outlaw kart race on the planet. Everybody shows up there with the intent to win a Golden Eagle, and anything less than that is pretty much not a successful weekend. So even for, us, we ran third, which, being on the podium is never something to hang your head on. It was one of the most disappointing thirds I've ever had. So to kind of recap the weekend, just to give our initial thoughts, Bennett, you got to be there. What were your thoughts on this year's kind of West Coast Nationals and just, kind of how it all played out?
So I know going into it, there's always a ton of anticipation and stuff. And I think we had, a normal car count. I don't think it's been the highest that we've seen in the past years, but we had actually some drivers from, I think, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe some other oddball states in between there, but definitely some long drives. But I will tell you, after everything was said and done, this West Coast Nationals was unique in a way that I think you saw one style of track one night and you saw another style of track the next night due to weather and whatnot. And let me tell you, I know in the podcast before this, we talked about the most craziest moments in Red Bluff Outlaws history. And I think this year's West Coast Nationals absolutely just almost took that top spot over. We'll discuss that probably a little bit later. But yeah, just a wild events, I guess, that were happening that we'll talk about.
And that's one thing about Red Bluff that I as much as sometimes you love or hate the place, I got to give it to it. It's one of the only racetracks where sometimes I truly leave there just jaw dropped, and I just cannot believe, what we just witnessed. And what Bennett is referring to is one of the incidents that took place on Sunday, which is one of our topics of discussion a little bit later. But yeah, it's just Red Bluff has a way of doing things like that to you, and you never know what to expect because literally anything can happen. We started our weekend off Thursday. They had the Cage Clone Classic, and that was kind of how it kicked off the weekend. We just kind of more hung out and barbecued, and because they also had practice sessions where a lot of people were practicing and putting a lot of time on the track, which I totally understand, why people were trying to get that valuable track time, especially people that don't get to race there every week. But for us, we obviously, we already said, we're jokingly, we already had our 12 test sessions, 12 points races. If we don't have our stuff pretty dialed in or figured out by now, we're in trouble. So we just hung out, kept the trailer all loaded up, while everyone else was practicing. And I really tried to watch the track and see what it was doing. I felt like, even though we have ran there all year, it's just nice to see with that many cars and, how it was prepped and, what it's doing to try to just have a head start on the weekend. And one of the things that did happen Thursday night that I thought was incredible, and I actually, if there's a way to do it properly, I think Red Bluff needs to implement maybe in the future bigger races. So the Cage Clone Classic, which was a very exciting show in 2021, was also once again a very exciting show in 2022. They had a full field of cars. They had a B main. It was exciting. It was intense. But what they did before the A is what I think made it even better. They did, and Bennett, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but it's called Calcutta.
It's a Calcutta, yeah.
So, and it's basically where you can bet on a driver. You can buy that driver. So what they did is they lined up each Cage Clone We had the grandstands full of people. Also, they were selling alcohol this weekend. So, people were drinking, having a great time, just, excited to watch some people, run. So they lined up each driver, and then Chase Rodman, the announcer, he was there, and they did they basically started bidding on each driver. And so, maybe for the last guy, it starts at $10, and, someone wants to pay 20, then someone wants to pay 30, and basically it gets rung up. And then, when they get to a certain point where no one else wants to bid, whoever was the last, they end up buying that driver for, let's say, if you put in $60, you buy that driver, and that goes into the pot. And then they do that for everyone. So obviously the people that have a higher chance of winning went for significant amounts more of money. I think the top driver was like around $1,000, right?
I wasn't there, but what I saw, yeah, I think it was pretty high. And I do know that's definitely something to bring up in conversation. The winner's share in the cage clone race paid more than the opens, which is actually kind of funny.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah. So like, people are throwing money left and right. We had bidding wars between people. Guys are going for $600, $700, $800, $900. And like I said, the top guy I think was around $1,000. So they lined them all up. I think at the end, the Calcutta raised $5,100 for the cage clone race. And so how it works is if you buy a driver and they win, you get half that money and the driver gets the other half. And then on top of the race already was $500 to win. So with, roughly $2,500, $2,600 split to the driver, the race paid like $3,000. Yeah, like Bennett said. So just incredible that a cage clone, where most of these cars maybe cost less than that, maybe not, I don't know. But, just crazy what they did with this. And it took about 45 minutes probably to do, but it was another exciting element where fans got to be involved. And I thought it was just, it added an element to watch that I enjoyed, and I hope they do that again. And I know it's a little bit of a different situation. They wanted to do it for the Opens on Sunday, but they ended up not getting the chance to. The one funny story, which is not funny for my car owner, Jimmy, and his buddy, Brian, they bet on a driver who probably had a good chance of winning. I think he started third. They bid up, I think it was around, like I said, it was around $1,000, and he didn't even start.
Oh my god!
They went to pull the deal, and I don't know if it was flooded or what, but they took him to the hot pit, and he didn't even end up making a lap. So that was pretty much, they pretty much just burned up $1,000 right there. But like I said, it was all for good fun, and back to the cage clone drivers. So they ran that. Winner ended up going home with $3,000. That kind of concluded the first night. Then Friday, we did our heat race picks, which we kind of talked about strategy for the heat race picks, and it was really interesting to see that all really play out for everyone as, some guys were trying to do different things. And, I thought it was interesting, Bennett. A lot of guys were going for trying to start in the middle of both their heats. There wasn't really a lot of people that were eager to try to start in the back of one and just have one big charge instead of, they wanted to try to just have two successful heat races from the second or third row.
Yeah, I know we definitely discussed that. And, watching people do that, because I think that was more of your goal 2 years ago, right? Is that, if I'm correct?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure, it's so tough to know. And so I decided, I was like, you know what, I think if I could just have one really good heat race, it'd be better than having to bet on myself twice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think, honestly, the way we did it this year, or you did it this year, was definitely the way to go. I do like the thought of, okay, if you're already last, you either got to hold on and survive the heat race, or you just got to move forward and go for it. And I think you've got way more opportunity to gain positions just by cars literally falling out of the race. And I think we saw a good amount of that in years prior. And maybe this year was a little more cleaned up for sure. But still, just these heat races aren't like normal heat races. I think they're 12 laps instead of 8, right?
Shoot. I think they might have been 2 more laps. They might have been 2 laps longer,
10 laps.
I think.
So
or
10 laps instead of 8. Everyone's just going for the money. And I think, if you start in the back and you got a fast car, especially having the QRC house cart like the 18T that Jimmy puts together, which is fast, I think it's almost your best opportunity there. And you can position yourself to race others around you, and you kind of know going into it what you got to do. And I think it almost executed perfectly in a sense.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree. The strategy was the way to go, and it's Red Bluff is so crazy. So like I said, to have to do two really good heat races, I would rather, just have to do one. And even though I was able to make the positions up, I started 8th. I ended up running 4th the first night, which was decent points. It was worth 99 points. So technically, if someone started on the pole and won their heat from the pole, you get 100 points. I got 99 for running 8th to 4th, but if I could have went 8th to 3rd, I would have got 111. So that one spot was crucial for me, I will say. But yeah, I expected there to be some more yellows, but as Bennett mentioned, it was a little bit cleaner this year. I felt like we had a lot less, no one really going upside down, no real big crashes that eliminated a lot of people. My heat race went green to checkered, so I kind of got a little hung out to dry. By the time I had gotten to 5th and then gotten to 4th, I still had enough laps, but I never, if I would have got to 4th and had a yellow, it might have been a whole different story. I could have maybe even, ran top 2 or won the heat race and had mega points. But so after the first night, I was sitting, I think, like 13th. But then also you got to remember, all those guys that started up front and won their heat, they had to go to the back and then also perform. And then by the time it was all said and done, after the second day of heats where I just started on the pole and pretty much just had to run, my couple laps out front and just do my thing and I'd be good. I ended up with 199 points and I was 3rd overall going into qualifiers. So perfectly executed. I think the high point person had, I think they went 8th to 2nd in their heat race, but then they ran maybe first, they went 1st to 2nd the next day. But overall, they still gained a couple more points because if you can have that one really good heat from last, the amount of passing points you gain is just incredible versus, trying to go 5 to 1 and then 4 to 1, in both heats, you have to pass cars.
Right.
So going into qualifiers, this is where it was really intense. And, because even though I was 3rd, most people would be like, all right, you're sitting pretty good. But if you look at it, the point spread from me to like 18th is only like 15 points, which is like that's like a couple spots in a qualifier. So if I don't move forward, I am not looking good at all. And the racetrack, it was pretty hooked up to start the night and almost a little bit choppy on Saturday. And it started to come in a little bit, but it ended up kind of being a little bit more bottom dominant by the time the qualifiers rolled out. And we were still able to go 8th to 4th. In those, because it's an 8-car invert instead of it's just an 8-car invert, which is much larger than normal, it gives us a chance to shake things up and maybe have a couple guys up front that drop out or, cause cautions or anything like that. So 8th to 4th, and then I was 4th in points going into the King of the Hill Dash. What were your thoughts on the King of the Hill Dash? That was, another event. They did that last year, but I wasn't in it, so I didn't really get to, I just got to watch. But as far as like, I'm not saying it wasn't exciting. It was, but I did kind of feel like it didn't add a whole lot to the show.
Yeah, I think, because there's multiple ways to do something that they're trying to achieve with the King of the Hill or, a pull shuffle. And I think the excitement definitely is out in a pull shuffle more than the King of the Hill. We've seen some pretty crazy King of the Hill stuff in different forms of racing, but I think, in years past that the pull shuffle has been just intense because you've had one guy that is moving up and moving up and moving up and that you're just 1v1. So all the attention's on you, you know what I mean? But I feel like in the pull shuffle or the King of the Hill race, my bad. The pull shuffle is intense, but the King of the Hill right? King of the Hill.
Yeah, the King of the Hill, where there's only like there's four cars out there.
And usually when the top 2 break out, it's kind of just single file from there on. And I don't know. Like you said, I think there were some guys that moved on. Landon, I think, moved up pretty well, but it just wasn't as exciting as, we've seen other forms of that type of deal in the past.
Yeah, and that's not like a bad critique towards Red Bluff. It was just, something that they haven't necessarily done year after year. It's kind of changed a little bit and, been critiqued a little bit on how they maybe do it differently from year to year. But like Bennett said, good.
Well, I was going to say, the way I would do it is it's the top 8, right? Or 12. Top 12.
So they did the top 12.
Top 12, bottom 2 go to the front of the B main. I think what they should do is they should do top 12 all on the track at one time. You run 4 laps, caution the field, back 2, drop out, and you keep the full field out there. Because not only it's going to make for more passing, you know what I mean? You're not going to be able to break out and be as fast as you are when there's only 4 cars on the track versus 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. The only thing I don't like about that, which maybe if they eliminated, if so, I would be more for that. I think maybe if they took only the top 10. The only thing I don't like is if you're the high point guy, or let's say you're second, and someone goes in there and dumps you first corner, which isn't really likely to happen, but you just never know. It's Red Bluff.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, like you're in a B main after being like
So
top 3 in points.
I'll agree with that. I think it should be locked in. So you're locked in 10, get to race for it for X amount of laps.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, even that it might just be that. Like maybe you do
Or you do
10
top 6 or top 5 and 5. 5 cars like a dash, a sprint car dash. You have top 6. You run amount of laps is 4 to 6 laps, and then you race for your starting position. You run the top 5 and the bottom 5, and that's when if you're scheduled to start 10th, you could get yourself all the way up to 6th, and if you're scheduled to start 5th, you could get yourself all the way up to the first position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like something like that. Yeah, because it's cool to have the chance to advance. Not be 100% locked in. And even if they even went old school and just almost did like the top 10 are locked in, they're gonna go run 20. They're gonna go run 20 lap. Like a mini feature.
Right.
Maybe something like that. But I also get, because then it's like, okay, these guys are locked in, and now we got to put more laps on our equipment before we got to run 50 more tomorrow. So I understand the argument. It's really tough to find something perfect. But I definitely think it'd be cool if, maybe if they looked at that and were like, hey, what can we maybe do just to make it a little bit more exciting? Because as Bennett's.
Well, I would say you definitely could if you did like maybe your top 10 did a 15 lap or 10 lap shootout. I understand the wear on the equipment, but maybe that was your smaller prelim version. Maybe that paid out X amount of dollars or a trophy that's pretty prestigious or something. You know what I mean? That way you're racing
Like a pole award.
Yeah, pole award. Like you're racing for it.
I like that. Something like that would be cool, just to add, it adds some build up to the weekend, because the King of the Hill, as Bennett mentioned, and anybody kind of watching, for the most part, if you're on the front row of the 4 cars, all you want to do is just run your line, and no one's probably going to pass you. Most likely, if you just do your job right, if you're front row inside and you get out front and you do your job, like no one's really going to pass you. It's just, unless they and no one's trying to do anything too crazy, because we're all locked in. You don't want to wear out your car for the difference between starting 7th and 5th or 5th and 3rd or whatever. So yeah, just interesting. But the track surface was pretty cool. It kind of developed a little bit of a curb. So I do give Red Bluff props. They really, as much as the track on Sunday ended up, being what they didn't want, it ended up taking rubber and actually kind of being a little bit more single file than normal around the bottom. I felt like they really put a lot of work into trying. They tried. They really tried, between trying to have a curb, trying to rework the racetrack, trying to do anything to just give us something to race on. And really, besides the open feature, which ended up, not being, like I said, ended up being not a downer. Just like I said, there wasn't a lot of passing.
Just wasn't ideal.
But all the other features, though, were extremely exciting.
Right. I think that kind of leads us into our next little moment here that I was referring to at the beginning. You want to go ahead and start that out?
Well, so the one moment that I think Bennett and I can agree is possibly the craziest moment we've maybe ever seen in Red Bluff Outlaws history. It's definitely up there, and it was jaw dropping. And you guys would have to go on. I said I wish you could see this visually. But basically, in the 250 race, literally all hell broke loose. Everything went wrong. So up front, they had, let's see, it actually started about midway through the race. The surface was awesome. Racetrack was pretty good. You could kind of run the top. You could kind of run the bottom. It was starting to get slick. They reworked it. And like I said, even the features leading up to it were pretty good. But we had Jackson Coughlin was up front. Eric Botello was up front. A couple of these really good young kids. And on a restart, a couple of them got together. And I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't sitting at a great angle. But all of a sudden, Jet Yantis, who was actually the 250 track champion this year at Red Bluff in 250s, he was like in 6th or 5th, and he was, or maybe even 7th, and he was leading the race.
So what happened with that is, so him and Jackson were actually, they had a great race. Like they were racing hard, side by side, really clean. And then I think Jackson pulled the slide job and then went to go run high in 3 and 4. And Jet went down there and tried to half slide him, but just looped it. He did a 360,
Yeah.
Kept going. I think another person spun, caution came out. He restarted maybe last or something. I don't know. But like you said, he was up to like sixth or seventh. Anyways, wild restart. The front, I don't even know, four or five get all together on the front stretch, kind of like the one time you and Carrick did, and you got up on your lid. And next thing you know, he's back in the lead of this deal. Jackson keeps going. And I think that was it. I think it was just Jackson and him again, still at the front row. And then this is where it gets juicy.
This is where it gets bad. So then restart, 2 to go. Jet Yantis is leading. Jackson Coughlin's in second. Jet picked the inside. I think he picked the inside.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they go green. Jet's leading. Looks like Jet's about to win an eagle. Yellow comes out, and there was no caution on track. So we're like, okay, maybe they're about to call him for a jump start. Well, they reviewed it. They realized there was a mistake. It was not a jump, or they wanted to review it because it was close, because they said he had took off before the first cone, which they have replay technology, which is really cool. They decided after talking it over for quickly under the yellow, they're just going to reline everyone up and give it another shot, that it was their mistake, I guess, or something along the lines of that. Basically, they didn't change anything at all.
Yeah.
Then on the next restart,
Jackson had an awesome restart. Like, he knew when Jet was going to go.
Yes.
So going into 1 and 2, they're side by side, and Jet took the bottom, because I think the bottom was the preferred lane at this point in the race. And Jackson just tubbed him. He just got a great run off the top, and now we're side by side going into 3 and 4.
Yeah, he got a great start on the outside, so takes the lead from Jet, and they go into 3 and 4. They're still side by side. Mm-hmm. They come to the white flag, and I'm freaking out already. I'm like, this is about to be a heck of a finish. I don't even know who's going to win. Maybe the guy in third's going to win.
Yeah.
Jackson gets a run off the top. He tries to go block the bottom, which he was pretty clear. It's really hard to say. I mean, at this point, regardless of how this all happened, everyone's going for an eagle, so you can't fault anything. Jackson goes to block the bottom. Jet goes to throw it in there. They make contact. Jet hops. They squared each other up, and it looked like no one was going to wreck. But as it squared Jackson up, because Jackson's on the outside, so in a situation like this where 8 wheels is better than 4, his left front loses the battle to Jet's right rear.
Yep.
It spun him out wickedly, quickly, just because they hopped wrong. And in that time, it also spins Yantis out, and Yantis is halfway sideways but can save it. And the third place car, Mason King, who's from Oregon, he all of a sudden is leading the race, going down the backstretch, going to 3 and 4 for the checkered. It looks like all of a sudden he's about to win this race.
And he's easily 2 car lengths ahead of Yantis at this point.
Yes, and part of it too is just because he had more forward momentum. He, I think, made contact with Coughlin as Coughlin wrecked, because he wrecked in front of the whole field. I think he might have hit him, but it didn't upset Mason's car that bad. Maybe I'd have to watch it back. So much happened. You have to watch it 6 times just to see what everybody happened to them. So anyway, Yantis is in second now. Mason goes to run the bottom, and I can't remember if he was even trying to. He just was going to stick the bottom, it looked like. And Yantis, after losing the lead, he throws it in hard, and he moves Mason King out of the way, kind of doors him in the center of the corner, and all of a sudden Yantis still crosses the line in first. And like I said, we're watching this and we're like, what just happened?
Everybody, I've seen a few moments at Red Bluff. Everybody was standing. There's not one person sitting for this finish.
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, just so much happened. Like I said, regardless of whose side you're on or whatever, this and that, that's for everyone else to decide. But it was just wow. All of a sudden, the guy that was leading the guy who took the white flag is backwards into turn 1. The car that was in second was almost staying near backwards, but saved it. Then all of a sudden, he somehow still wins the race. The guy in third was going to win for a second. It was crazy. And on top of that, even the people in 4th, 5th, and 6th still had a shot because they were all right there. So Yantis crosses the line in first. And then, he's obviously pumped. He's celebrating he won the race. And, honestly, at that, I think we all kind of thought Yantis, he crossed the line first. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they had it under review. They wanted to, or something. They were reviewing what had happened on track, to see if they deemed it as clean or dirty driving. And so, like I said, Yantis is celebrating. I think his sister had ran third, which she also races in 250s. So, they're all pumped up. Absolutely. Like I said, they won the race. And he's doing donuts, and then all of a sudden he gets out of his car to celebrate, and they announced that he had been disqualified. And the second place car, Mason King, who was third at the white flag, who was leading into turn 3, they gave the win to him.
Mm-hmm.
And just chaos how it all unfolded. Like I said, because, these guys are already celebrating the win. Everyone's going nuts. There's some people in the stands that are mad. There's some people are happy. And like the whole place had just like I said, I felt like there was no way it was just me that was like, what just happened?
Right. I think regardless of who you wanted to win or whatnot, Yantis also previously ran the open intermediate race before this. And there was some contact there, I think, that prevented him from winning that as well. But regardless of who you wanted to win or whatnot, I came to watch a race and I came for excitement, and I got that. I was fulfilled with what I got to watch, and I thought it was if you want to watch something exciting, that was exciting, and the West Coast Nationals provided it, and I would watch it 10 times over if I could.
And I mean, there's no other better way to put it. There's no other, and that's the cool part about kart racing. That's more the thing that we want to share like on our podcast. Cause unfortunately with like Red Bluff, just being honest, a lot of negative comes out of it. A situation like that, there's obviously people on both sides of the story. I get that everyone wants to win, but and a lot of that negativity goes on to social media and Facebook and people asking what's everyone's thoughts. And I get it. Trust me, I want to win an Eagle. Bennett and I have had our years where we've all both been so close and wrecks happen and literally it's just chaos. So we've lived it. But at the end of the day, like Bennett said, the West Coast Nationals and the Red Bluff Outlaws provided this exciting finish, and the drivers laying it all out there on the line. At the end of the day, I probably wouldn't expect anything less. That's what we're supposed to do. And so, congrats to Mason King. Everyone involved, Yantis, Coughlin, Botello, all these guys put on such an exciting 250 race, and that was probably one of the craziest races I've ever seen at Red Bluff. So if you get the chance to go watch it on Fast 4 Media, you need to just spend about 10 minutes and just take in, what happened and just, the unfolding of all the events. And on top of that, there were some other really good races. I think Braxton Foster, he kind of walked away in the box stock division. Who wants? Oh, Eric Gannon. That was cool. We had him on the podcast.
Yeah, his first, and me and you both. I didn't know that was his first Eagle.
Yeah, first Eagle ever. So that's special, especially a guy that's been racing there so long, has over 20 career victories, in the top 10, I think, on the wins list all time, to get his first Eagle finally. So Eric Gannon got it done. I think Riley Fuchs won the beginner box stock. Who won? Let's see. Open Intermediate was won by Jennifer Osborne, and then my teammate Landon.
Cool.
That was very neat. She has been really fast, and she just ran a good race, right spot, right time, put it all together, and was definitely one of the fastest drivers on track. So for her to get an Eagle, that was neat. And then Landon Brooks, my teammate, got his I don't know if it was his first, but his first Open West Coast Nationals Eagle. So yeah. The weekend didn't disappoint. The only other topic of discussion, and we'll kind of keep this a little bit short, but a couple people have been talking, should they maybe change the format for West Coast Nationals? We mentioned King of the Hill, but more, it was a long 4 days. I won't lie. We're there at the track all day. But part of that is just the Nationals atmosphere. But I mean, Bennett, what are your thoughts? Do you think that we should maybe try to condense it a little bit?
So I think me and you have an honest opinion and say on this, just because I think we've seen all the different variations of how the West Coast Nationals can go. I've been there when it's been 4 days. I've been there when it's been 3 days. I've been there when it's been 2 days. And definitely you feel tired and drained nonetheless, regardless of how long you're there, because of how much racing goes on. But I will say, just this is my personal opinion, however you do it, it's not going to be easy. And I know that that's just how it is, because how you're going to run the format is always going to be different. So there used to be the qualifying and you pay the extra for the extra qualifying and all this. But now with the new format of you pick your heat races and you qualify for tiebreakers, kind of eliminates that and makes it a little more cost friendly. And I guess, but the way I would do it, and there's two There's just two different ways I would do it, and I don't think we've ever done it this way in the past. And I know we've talked about this. Do you think it should be randomized, or you pick your preliminary night and you run a full show with half the cars, and that's your preliminary night?
Yeah, I think that's the best. I think that's the best format personally too. I think if you could have prelim nights, that would add excitement. And it's hard to do. I don't know how it necessarily would look, but if you could do prelim nights, because then I think that's what's cool about the Chili Bowl is like, okay, you have, obviously we're not gonna have that many nights, but maybe if West Coast Nationals is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you have your Thursday guys and you have your Friday guys, and it gives a chance for like, upset winners, people you wouldn't expect. Maybe they have an awesome preliminary night. You're only racing against half the guys. Maybe someone stands out. However you could do it. Excuse me. I think that could be like an awesome way for West Coast Nationals to go. So then you're racing all one day, and then the other day you have off and you can watch, and you're not like, because I think, like I said, that's the only thing about the current format is you're there 4 days and you're not running many laps. A lot of it is sitting around because there's so many cars, which is cool. We want the event to be that big, but maybe it could be condensed to where like, okay, you race this day and this day you're not racing, and then, everybody runs Saturday for the finale or Sunday or however they want to do it. And I don't necessarily know how you can mix the cage clones in there too, because I think the Cage Clone Classic is a neat addition, but it just makes it hard. The more days it is, I think makes it hard for people to travel, because you have travel days on top of how many days you're racing. The only other way I think they could do it if they weren't to do prelim nights to condense it is if you were to do the Cage Clone Classic Thursday, because personally, I believe Nationals needs to go back to Saturday night. Finale needs to be on Saturday.
Finale, 100%. I think the finale, and we need to put, I don't know how we do this, but I think there needs to be an emphasis on a trophy presentation.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like we pull out remember that banner, the Red Bluff Outlaws banner
Yes.
thing for the trophy dashes? Yep. We pull that out. We bring the eagle out after each main event, and you park the winner on the very front stretch there. You run the opens last. So that way, that's that moment. You earn that moment to get that trophy in front of everybody. You have a victory lane right in the center of the track. I think we need to have that, because I feel like one of the things I don't necessarily like the most is when the race is over, it's over. And when you get your trophy, it's literally you and the other winners in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not really a spotlight. We need a spotlight because you earned that. And that's the biggest prize in Outlaw Karts right there. You earned it.
I could not agree more. And I think doing that on a Saturday night would work, especially just how they could do that, and also what they could do for the opens, because I think it'd be cool. You could shut off all the lights. You could have the spotlight you mentioned. It's all about atmosphere. And I think that could bring a little bit back to West Coast Nationals. And instead of doing it on Sunday, where, on Sunday everyone's tired, it's late, most people got to work on Monday. It's just tough. I
was going to say, and not knocking anything, but most of the people, by the time the opens come around, a lot of the younger kids and their families, they're gone. I mean, they're heading out. It's been a long weekend. They got school on Monday. They don't have that travel day. Whereas if we wrapped it up on Saturday and everyone had that Sunday travel day, and we put an emphasis on the winners and everything after their main events on Saturday night, I think it would create a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah, and so I think if they change the format, even though my dream is for Nationals 1 year to have prelim nights, I know how it could be really tough to do that. Even if they did like Cage Clone Classic on Thursday, let's condense it back to 3 nights. Cage Clone Classic Thursday in practice. Friday, I think we can qualify and run both sets of heat races. You can do heat race picks, qualify, and run both sets of heats. It'd be a long day, but we're already going to be there regardless. And then Saturday, wake up early, do qualifiers and mains. And I think it could be done. It'd be a late Saturday night, but that's still 3 nights. People are going to be there. You don't technically have to be there Thursday, so it could just be a Friday, Saturday deal if people were traveling from out of town and they want to come down Thursday and not practice. But anyway, I think that could be a good resolution, and just making the weekend a little bit more like quick. And then, like you said, when it comes Saturday night, we want everybody in the grandstands to be watching, because the beginner kids, like I remember being in beginner and bucks, we wanted to have a seat on the wall or in the stands to watch the open feature. That was huge. Like we're about to watch another year of history for kart racing in the books right ahead of us. And who's it going to be? Like, any of these guys have a shot. So maybe, maybe in the future that is, I would not be surprised if they do change it a little bit. I know a couple of drivers were really talking like, hey, I think maybe we should do something to just, condense it a little bit and get it to where we can race a little bit more and just, anything to add a little bit of excitement and intensity because it's already, such a big race.
Yeah, I think for sure, if anything, I think it needs to end on a Saturday just because I think you allow more of a travel time on Sunday, recovery time. Not everyone's rushing to get out of there, get home because they got work or school or whatever it is on Monday. I think Saturday would be perfect because, heck, I bet you the party Saturday night would be the biggest party at the West Coast Nationals if everything wrapped up at a decent time. You know what I mean? But I think there's definitely a way that, not because there's something wrong, but I think you can always improve what you're doing if you put your time and effort into it. And I think it'd be cool to see some of that stuff implemented into next year's West Coast Nationals.
Absolutely. And with that, we just also here on Off the Track, we want to give a huge shout out to Brandon Williams and everyone that worked Red Bluff all winter. I know it's coming to an end now. I'm sure those guys will enjoy, their time off until next winter, but the track crew, Brandon, anybody that just, just puts so much time and effort, absolutely puts so much time and effort, into making it happen. Other people, Kyler Shaw,
Chase
Rodman, yeah, all the people that work in the booth. It's not easy to run, the top outlaw car track in the nation. And, so many people are obviously showing up and everyone has their opinions and this and that and whatnot. And so I totally can understand. But, look forward to, being back there next season. With that, though, like I said, we are going racing this weekend at the Ocean Speedway on Friday and Saturday at the Stockton Dirt Track. So I cannot wait to get down there in the sprint car. We just finished wrapping everything up. The car, by the time this podcast drops, the video should be out. So the car is red and black, carbon fiber, super nice. Definitely probably the cleanest sprint car I've had to date. So I can't wait to get it out on track. So we're going to finish that up, load this afternoon, and we will be headed south this weekend. Both nights can be watched on Flow Racing, and we'll have a bunch to talk about next week, kind of about how that's going to go, as well as we're going to try to get some guests on here again soon on Off the Track. Bennett, do you have anything else you want to add to the show?
Not really too much. I think as we watch this NASCAR season unfold with the new car and everything, once again, an amazing finish to the race at COTA.
Dude, Ross Chastain is bad boy.
I mean, you couldn't. I mean, I feel like we're watching a new car that has its faults. That's not the best, but I think it's providing for some of the most level playing field in just intense racing that we've seen in the past couple years. I mean, Trackhouse Racing is literally how new to NASCAR? Like what, a year?
Yeah, they haven't been around much time at all. Yeah,
I don't think they've been there that long, and have Ross Chastain move up and get a win for him in the Cup Series is huge. I mean, that's literally knocking over Rick Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Roush Fenway. Like it's just intense that these guys are coming out here and doing this, and I think I can't wait to watch the rest of the season. It's something new, and I don't know what to expect each race. I think I could have told you last year Kyle Larson's gonna win or he's gonna be top 3. This year I don't know yet.
Yeah, and if you guys have been listening to all the podcasts, I'm not a big NASCAR guy, but I have been pretty glued to the TV on Sundays for most parts of the race just because, yeah, it's been exciting to watch, and that's what they need, and it's cool for the underdog stories, regardless of, honestly, if AJ Allmendinger would have won or Ross Chastain. Ross was definitely the best story, for sure.
Right.
But even if AJ would have won, that would have been cool. I feel like just to see different people and then also the new car is causing controversy for others, and we're getting, our boy Kyle Busch is giving us some good sound bites, and everything's right in the world at the current moment for NASCAR racing.
Right.
So
yeah,
we'll have to see. We'll have to see who gets it done these next couple weeks.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm excited for our seasons to get rolling here. I know it's getting underway this weekend, and I don't think it's going to stop till October.
No, we have a lot ahead of us. So that's going to wrap up another episode of Off the Track, West Coast Nationals. We talked about some great moments at Red Bluff everything and all that, and then what is ahead of us all in today's show. Thank you guys for listening. You can listen on all your favorite podcast platforms, as well as we have the audio version on YouTube. But we are going to be signing off for now, and we will see you guys next week on Off the Track. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.